greetings, my guzzlers. Well, we've made like main dishes, we've made loads of breads, we've made loads of, baked products. What we're going to do is we're going to make a savoury thing, but this is more of a breakfast item. Okay, we are going to make a Lorne sausage. And no, it is not a vegetarian sausage. The wife thinks she's being funny. Oh, is that made from grass then? Ha 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 ha, lawn. Ha ha. This is a traditional sausage made with sausage meat. It's just it is not in a sausage skin or casing. So we're going to make a Scottish Lorne sausage. It is also sometimes known as a square sausage or slice. And like I said, it's not made in a casing. We're going to make it in a loaf tin. And what I've done here is I've just covered the loaf tin with some cling film, and we'll be packing it into there and then just wrapping it in cling film, and it will go in the fridge to chill. Okay, but before we get to that, obviously we need to make the sausage. Now, it is traditionally a 50-50 mix of beef and pork, but you can just have beef, you can just have pork, it's up to you. Right, so what I've got here is 450 grams of minced beef and 450 grams of minced pork. Oh, that's interesting. Pork comes with a bit of paper on it, the beef doesn't. So that's the main meat. Okay, essentially, like I say, we're going to make it into like a rectangular shape. And it would be sliced, about centimetre thick slices, but we're going to add a little twist to it. And as it turns out, I thought of this, and then when I was doing my little research, I discovered actually it wasn't unusual. I'm going to put black pudding through the middle. We sometimes get in England a thing called gala pie, which has got like boiled eggs inside like a meat pie. And so I thought, well, what we could do is have black pudding running through the middle, and that kills two birds with a stone for your breakfast. You've got your sausage and you've got your black pudding. So I've got two black puddings here. These obviously need taken out their cases, but we'll come to that in a bit. The other ingredient that will go into our sausage is some rusk. Okay, we can use breadcrumbs. This is rusk, and I've got 170 grams of that, so that's going in there. I've got a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, because this sausage does tend to be a little bit spiced, and I've got a teaspoon of ground coriander, and then I've got about a quarter of a teaspoon of salt and about a quarter of a teaspoon to half a teaspoon of white pepper. And that is all the ingredients apart from an egg, which we'll put a whole egg in there, not including the shell, okay, to help bind this all together. So I'm just going to get gloved up so I can get my hands in here. So that's all the ingredients in there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure these all thoroughly mixed together. So it's called a Lorne sausage, L-O-R-N-E, okay, and it's a little bit unclear as to where the name come from. It could be it comes from the region of Lorne, which I believe it doesn't really exist anymore. It's now part of Argyll and Bute, I don't know. And this was where it originated from, and so therefore it got its name from it. That's probably the most likely. There are a couple of other suggestions. One of the most common ones, which is completely wrong, is that it was named after a famous Glaswegian comedian, Tommy Lorne, and he used to make jokes about the square sausage that you got in Scotland, and hence they decided to call it the Lorne sausage. Only trouble with that is that there are references to the Lorne sausage at least 6 years before Tommy Lorne was about, so that obviously isn't the reason it's called a Lorne sausage. Another version is that it was named after the Marquess of Lorne, who was the Duke of or son of the Duke of Argyll at the time, and that he married one of Queen Victoria's daughters, and for some weird reason they decided to name the square sausage after him. Again, probably not likely. And really, that's about it. So like I say, it's more likely it's just named after the region. Right, I'm going to get this, make sure this is all thoroughly mixed in. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim the ends off of the black pudding and remove the plastic casing, because obviously we don't want that inside it. I'll be keeping the bits, or the end bits. Might have to cook that off and have that later. Equally, it might be that I've got some spare sausage, perhaps fry that up with that. So that's my black pudding ready. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start filling our tin. Now, like I say, I've lined it with greaseproof. I've lined it with cling film. So what I'm going to do first off is get a layer in there. I'm just going to get gloves on again, and then we'll start positioning the black pudding so that it sits in the middle and we surround it with sausage meat. Tip: next time you wash your hands, make sure you dry them thoroughly before you try and put a glove on. Don't want to go in. So I'm just going to pack in, pressing down fairly tightly, some of the sausage mix. Now, why square? You know, sausages have been about, so why suddenly are we doing square ones? Well, it appears, so I've just sat that in the middle there, that in the 19th century, which is sort of about when these sort of came about, as it were, metal tins for cooking in and that had become quite popular, and so I'm just going to put that down into there. And they were obviously cheaper to pack your sausage meat in a tin, like we're doing, than it was to buy and fill casings. And so hence, probably, that is where the square shape came from. It was just simply a cheaper way of making a sausage. That's filled the tin, pressed it all down. Okay, now I've used leanish mince. Traditionally, it obviously, you know, would have just been full fat meat, as it were, with as much as a 20% fat content. Now, obviously, that's these days that's not an unhealthy option, but the fat is an important part of it for when we come to cook it, because the fat will ensure that the meat doesn't dry out as we cook it. So all I'm doing is I'm just folding that cling film over the top, just giving it a little press down, and now what we will do is refrigerate that for a good few hours, so that when we turn it out it's firm enough to slice. Now your other option is you whack it in the freezer for a few hours. Probably the best thing in the fridge is 24, to be honest. In the fridge a couple of hours, so we don't want it setting, you know, freezing completely, but at least it'll be solid enough that we can then slice it. And like I say, you slice it into 1 centimetre thick slices. So you're just going to have to wait until I can show you that. So just have a little clean up, might have a little bit of black pudding. So here's our nicely chilled Lorne sausage. And so what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap it, and I'm going to turn it out get ready to slice it up. So I'm going to take the end off to start with. And there you can just about see, let me just move the pan out of the way, there's the black pudding in the middle. Now I've got my pan out because we're obviously going to try it out. So I'm going to start by trying out the trimmings, as it were. But like I said to you, what we now do is we just slice this up into 1 centimetre slices. One of the slices, now they're probably a little bit thicker than 1 centimetre, but it's obviously quite difficult to slice this, particularly with the black pudding in the middle. Actually, I mentioned that I thought about, I'll put black pudding in it, and that actually is a common thing. The other thing, being it's Scottish, is that sometimes they put haggis through the middle. Anyway, I'm going to just get these slices wrapped up, and then we're going to cook off the end bits and try it. So I've got that first slice, which didn't have any real black pudding in it, and that crumbled up. Got the end slice, which actually ends up being a little bit thicker. So I put a little bit of oil in the pan, because if you remember, I said normally this is quite high in fat if you're having normal non-lean meat, if you like. Being that this was only 5% fat meat, I've added a little bit of oil to the pan, and now I'm just going to fry it over, nice, make sure it's all cooked through on both sides, and then we'll try it out. Quite a lot of sausage there, so I might keep some of that for later on. As my mate would say, that'll be for Ron later on. Here's our rather thick or unevenly thickness slice of Lorne sausage. So let's just try a bit off the end here. It's got a little bit of a crunchy outer layer, and I think that's the rusk that is in it. You get a flavour of the nutmeg and the coriander. It is very dry, but like I say, that's due to the fat content. I think next time fry these up in a little bit more fat or oil, which I know defeats the object. I mean, not that Lorne Sausage is about the black pudding, we're going to have to try a bit of the black pudding, so I like black pudding. So, your traditional Scottish sausage, a Lorne sausage. I'm going to finish this off now for breakfast. Enjoy.